Well, it looks like student loan debt is going to get a little help. Today we're going to take a look. Stay tuned for Prudent Money. Good afternoon. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. Thank you so much for joining me today. You know, I do appreciate it. And I do have a line open if you'd like to call in and join the program. The number to call is 1-877-913-5357. 1-877-913-5357. You can also go to the website at www.prudencemoney.com. Send a question into the Ask Bob section, and I will get that taken care of for you. That's all at the website, prudentmoney.com. 1-877-913-5357. 5357. Well, we've been discussing the possibilities, anyway, of student loan forgiveness. And finally today, I guess it's official, and President Biden issued what was going to happen and confirmed what was going to happen. So it looks like $10,000 of student loans and $20,000 of Pell Grant loans are going to be forgiven. Now, there's not a whole lot of detail with this. In fact, 2 or 3 hours ago when I was preparing for the program, there a little bit more detail came in, and you have to verify, and you have to do a lot. You have to take a lot of steps to get this to happen. But Pell Grants, this is a new one. The focus in the media was 10,000 of student loans, and this was $10,000 of student loans to be forgiven per person, and 20,000 of Pell Grant loans. Now, a Pell Grant loan is financial aid that is need-based, and it doesn't need to be paid back. So I'm trying to figure out what the deal is with forgiving up to $20,000 of Pell Grant loans when this is a loan that doesn't even need to be paid back. It says such a Pell Grant does not have to be repaid except under certain circumstances. Such situations would include withdrawing early from your academic program, or receiving other federal aid or scholarships that would reduce your need for the grant in the first place. So the little bit of research that I did on Pell Grant loans, we'll have John Hupalo on, I believe, next Wednesday, and a week from today, and he'll be able to really dial into what some of this means. I don't think that you're getting a lot of bang for your buck on the $20,000 of Pell Grant loans, because I don't think there's going to be very many people that are actually going to be qualified for those particular loans. So it's kind of one of those things where it looks good in the press, looks good for politics' sakes, but as far as actual student loan savings, probably not much. In my opinion, I think they should have worked to fix the system and done some things to change the system versus going through this process of canceling a small amount of $10,000. And when I say a small amount, compared to $1.7 trillion in student loan debt, $321 billion, which is just an estimate, is not that big of a chunk. So let's talk about who the losers are in this situation. The losers are you and I. We have $30.7 trillion in debt. We have yet to have a president in a long time that was serious about doing something about this problem. I think that the 30.7 trillion, if you add in today's new really debt forgiveness, that comes out to about 31 trillion. But 30.7 trillion in debt, and we're going to add 300. We're going to lose the ability to get $321 billion in debt because of the student loan forgiveness. What they're calling the wealthy, which is $125,000 for an individual in taxable income, and $250,000 taxable income for a married couple. If you are above those thresholds, you don't get anything, nothing at all. So those are the part of the rules of debt forgiveness. Then there's the incoming students who missed out on free college. Let's call it for what it is. It was $10,000 or $20,000 for the free college. And it's really, in my mind, maybe because it's not, if they would have forgiven all of the debt, which would have been absolutely insane. In fact, to be, when you really think about it, I can't believe that didn't have more momentum. After all, they're bailing out just about everything. So what's another $1.7 trillion really? But it comes down to the students that are coming up. So my son, for instance, will be a senior this year. He won't have any student loan debt to forgive. But anyway, we'll get off of that. So who are the winners? Well, the politicians are clearly the winners. Think about this with me for a second. I've seen 2 or 3 different numbers, or the media has published 2 or 3 different numbers. 12 million voters versus 15 million voters are the people who are going to benefit from this debt forgiveness. So look at this for just a second. Not that all of the 12 to 15 million voters will benefit, will turn around and vote for Biden or whoever's going to run for on the Democratic side. But I would imagine a good portion of people in that this has affected might be swayed to vote for the Democratic Party. So really, you're just kind of buying votes, if anything at all. You're fulfilling what's called the campaign promise. He did promise this on the campaign trail. 12 million voters. We'll say it was 12 million voters out of the last statistic of 2020 was there was 100 million people voting. Of course, there's a lot of controversy as to if that's a real number or not. But let's just go with what we got. So 12 million voters. And think about that you only need 51% of the vote on the popular, at least on the popular vote, at least. So that's quite a bit. That's quite a few of voters. The other winner in this situation is socialism, because of the income requirements. $250,000 for a married couple, $125,000 for an individual, and they don't get a break. So there you have it. And of course, they did extend the payment delay until January 2023. Really thought that would happen. We've been talking about that. And my concern is, we've talked about this, but the number of months that have gone by, the amount of time that has gone by that people with student loan debts have not made a payment. With inflation and everything else, the question is, at this point in the game, when we're going to be at almost 3 years, almost at 3 years, give or take about 2 months, the student loan, those with student loan debts have not made a payment. Some have lost jobs. Some have definitely everybody's been affected by inflation. The question is, will they be able to turn around and make those payments going forward? If it were me and I wanted to fix the student loan problem, the interest rates on student loans are not that bad. But how about if you're going to do something like forgive notes and forgive debt, why don't you just turn around and not do that and say, we're only going to charge 2% on this debt or 1% on this debt, or maybe these are no interest loans. How about helping those who have defaulted to bring them current, to give them an opportunity to pay this debt off? And right now they've got all kinds of programs that you can get debt forgiven if you do certain things, like work for a nonprofit for a certain number of years and this kind of thing. But I think they're going about this all wrong, but hey, that's the way it goes, and that's politics. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. We're up against a break. Stick around. Be right back. Welcome back. This is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. 1-877-913-5357. Had a real good turnout this morning with the first webinar of 3 that we're doing this week. It's the same webinar each time, not a different one. And really covered a lot of ground today. We actually finished in 41 minutes. Covered a lot of information. The bottom line is, I want you to be able to be equipped to put together your own simple retirement plan on your own. And you've always got me to help. Just go to askbob@prudentmoney.com, send in a question, I'll answer for you. But I've got this broken down into a simplified process, and at least if you're not going to work with a financial advisor, that you'll have an idea of where you're at and where you're going. And we talk a lot about why so much of the population has not put together a plan. There's a couple of overriding reasons that we talk about. One's human nature, which I'll get into tomorrow at the webinar at 11 o'clock. But a lot has to do with, believe it or not, pop culture finance. Because the way that they teach financial education through the money magazines and Kiplinger's of the world is that all you have to do is this and plus this, and you'll always get this. And it just doesn't work out that way. So they put this gold standard of the retirement dream and tell you how to get there. But if you can't, if they say put 15% back a year, and you'll have the greatest retirement that you could imagine, which I don't think it's that easy, by the way. In fact, I know it's not that easy. Then you say, well, I only put back 10%. What about me, or 9%? I guess I just won't be able to retire. I won't have the type of retirement that I want. Well, there's nothing that is even remotely close to being true about that. And that's one of the things I want to stress, is that you can put a retirement plan together that is unique to you, that fits who you are and fits your family's values and your faith. Seems like that's always kind of left out. So make sure that if you have not signed up, we still have 2 more to go. One tomorrow, Thursday at 11 a.m. and one Friday at 12 noon. Like I said, we get you in and get you out of there, well, as far as the webinar goes. And hopefully it's something that you can really benefit from. Just go to prudentmoney.com and register today. And I think that the registration automatically turns off for tomorrow, sometime tomorrow morning, so you don't want to hesitate. But you can always go to prudentmoney.com and send us an email. Say, hey, wanted to register, wasn't able to, and we'll send you a link. 1-877-913-5357. We're watching the statistics of the real estate market very closely. And Mark Pfeiffer, our resident mortgage consultant, will be in tomorrow on the program. Talk a little bit about what he's seeing. But we're starting to see the deterioration of the market. That doesn't by any stretch mean anything. It's just, it has to start at some point, and it's starting to deteriorate a little bit. A couple of data points came out. Home prices declined 0.77% from June to July. Now, this is the first monthly decline in nearly 3 years, which is pretty amazing because the sheer strength of the real estate markets has been something else to watch. And it's been 3 years since we have had a monthly decline. But this is the largest single month decline in prices since January 2011. And then they also put in, it's also the second worst July performance dating back to 1991, which is somewhat significant. But you're starting to see the market starting to turn the other way. Now, we'd have to have a major supply and demand problem to see this really come apart at the seams or crash or anything like that, like it did in 2008. But this is different than 2008, so it's hard to say what it's going to look like. But I will keep you up on the numbers. And like I said, tomorrow we'll see what Mark has to say. He's always a wealth of information. We also in the news today gave $3 more billion. Just think about that for a second. $3 billion to the Ukraine to fight Russia. Aid, of course, we won't get that back. Bringing the total, at least this is one of the more consistent totals. There's a lot of different numbers on the internet. But bringing the total to $54 billion. $54 billion. I don't know. I start to think about things like Social Security, which is something else that we talk about in the webinar as far as retirement, how significant a part that those numbers play. And I think that people don't realize that if you utilize it the right way, it can be significant in the way that it changes retirement for you. $54 billion would go a long way. But that's one of the number one concerns amongst people in this country is, when will Social Security run out of money? We talked about that today, and we'll talk about it again tomorrow. But there's two functions that fund Social Security benefits. One is payroll taxes, and payroll taxes come in. They go all to help pay the benefits that come to you. And then there is the Social Security Trust Fund, which has money into it, which replaces that pays the gap between payroll taxes and Social Security benefits. You see, if you just paid Social Security benefits with payroll taxes, you could only pay about 70% or so of the benefit, because that's all the amount of money that's coming in from payroll taxes. So the problem is that in 2032 or 2034, depending on who you listen to, Social Security is due to run out of money in that trust fund. So the only thing that will be available to pay for Social Security benefits will be payroll taxes, and they're covering only 70%. It will be interesting to see with inflation. Inflation added another 6% to Social Security benefits for this year. And then, as we talked about the other day, for this next year, for 2023, it adds a minimum of 9%. That's significant. And, it's kind of one of those things where Social Security recipients have been fighting inflation like everybody else. So this just goes to help do that. At least it's a little bit of relief. 9% if we don't see any shift upwards in inflation, and 11% if we do, up to 11%. So that's a pretty big, sizable increase. Now, when you look at things like that, it makes me wonder how that Social Security Trust Fund will go down even more. But the highest Social Security, not Social Security, the highest inflation cost of living adjustment that has happened with Social Security benefits was in 1920, I believe, if my memory serves me correctly. 1920, and it was 23%. And I got to thinking about today's inflation rate at 8.5, which we've talked about it numerous times. I don't believe that inflation rate is at 8.5% at all. I believe it's at over 20. The reason I say that is just because of, if you drive a car, if you eat food, you're paying at least 20% more, 20-something% more. If you go to Chick-fil-A or you go to any fast food restaurant, you're paying 20 to 25% more for the food that you buy. So I have a hard time believing it's 8.5%. But it is definitely something that Social Security recipients need, is that cost of living adjustment. So that's a good thing, and we should have the answer to that. They'll declare that in the fourth quarter of this year, so probably about October, you'll know for sure exactly what type of benefit increase you're getting. Hey, this is Bob Brooks, and you are listening to the Prudent Money Radio Show. If you've got a question for me, please go to the website at prudentmoney.com. Send it in, because we are all out of time. Till we do meet again next time. Keep the faith and have a great rest of the day.
That's all the time we have for today. Questions or comments for Bob, or to find out more great information like what you've just heard, visit www.prudentmoney.com. Be sure to join Bob Brooks again for the next edition of Prudent